Good morning, everybody. Yeah. Happy New Year. So firstly, thank you so much for coming out this morning under the given conditions, and thank you for your patience as we've waited a little longer than we normally do to start, just to allow other people to come in and join us. So thank you again for all being here. So my name's Brett Janelle. I'm one of the hosts of the Retired Living Truth Seminar Series, along with my beautiful wife, Annette, who just walked in. And for those who are new, I know we have a couple of new people. We started this approximately 8 years ago. And so we're one of the education partners. But when we started this, one of the things we realized was, while we have great resources here in the community, sometimes it's very hard to find those resources. So hence having education partners who have joined us. And we're super excited this year for the number of education partners that we have. On either side, there's a banner with half on this side, the education partners, and half on this side. So you'll probably see a number of new names, logos. And in your binder, you will find a list with all the education partners, their contact information, and a little bit about them. And I'm just curious, has anyone yet counted up how many education partners we have for 2024? Can anyone tell me? 23. Oh, very close. Add one more and you would be correct. Yeah, we have 24 education partners this year, which Annette and I and our education partners are super excited about. So today's topic, the truth about support at home, navigating your options. So how did this topic come about? So the reason we were doing this topic is that as Annette and I, being in real estate, work with clients and visit them in their homes, do most people want to move or stay in their home? Stay in the home, show of hands. Want to move? Not too many hands, a few hands. Yeah. Yeah, just get rid of all the stuff and move. But one of the challenges as we age and we want to stay in our homes is how do we do that in a vibrant, safe way? So part of what we come across when we meet with our clients is ideally they'd like to stay in their homes but aren't aware of what the different resources are to enable them to potentially or be able to do that, or at least for longer. Sometimes, we do have to move, but maybe we just want to be able to defer that as long as possible. So that's what today's topic is all about, learning some of the different options in our community to help us age in place without having to move. What else did we need to cover, Annette? I'm kind of phones, Annette's saying phones. If you haven't already silenced your phone, please do so. And I'm a little thrown off today. We normally start at 10 o'clock and there's normally a very full room. So we've had a few little things to sort out today, so please forgive me. Our room. So good news and bad news. The good news, are we all warm? Does it feel warm in here? Yeah, so thank you to the event staff here. They kindly last minute moved us into this room because the room we were going to be in has no heating at the moment. So the technicians are working on that. So I'm glad they decided to move us because today's probably a little colder than normal with all the wonderful snow that we have. So thank you to the event staff here who helped us make that happen. So if you can see the projection screens, today we're in room A7 and A8. Was it a little bit of a walk? Yeah. So the good news is that's probably the longest walk you'll ever have to do for one of our seminars. The bad news is you had to do it today on our first one here. Where we were planning on being was right at the very entrance when you walk in. So yes, you can see we had to walk a little bit further. Next month, we're going to be in rooms A12 and A13, which are around the corner. So a little bit shorter, but a little bit of a walk still. But we'll work on that as we go along. So just trying to think of any other housekeeping. Did everyone get a binder when they came in? If you didn't already have one? And inside your binders were you handed a new sleeve for new education partners? Should have a new sleeve with the new business cards for new education partners. Fantastic. Did everyone get a raffle ticket for today? Anyone not get a raffle ticket? We need one raffle ticket down here. So if it wasn't explained, normally we provide a raffle ticket for those who bring a new guest. And just given what we're all dealing with today, Lisa Fleck, who's the donor today of the prize, thought it would be a good idea to thank all of you by giving you all a raffle ticket to have the opportunity to win the prize. So thank you, Lisa, for that great idea. So before we go to question and answer, we'll do the drawing and someone in here will win that wonderful prize. So I think what I'd like to do is invite my panelists to come up and join me. Ryan, Kim, Jeff, you can come up and take a seat. This is a much taller stage than our past venue. It's like, wow, way up high. So thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah. So if we can perhaps start with you, Ryan, and yes, microphones. Just flick up.
Check. Okay.
You good there, Kim, Jeff? Just flick the button up. So if we could start with you, Ryan, just who you are, why you're here today, and a little bit about you with the audience.
Sure. So my name is Ryan Hart. I'm the owner of Amada Senior Care. We are a non-medical in-home care agency that provides help with any kind of activities of daily living on a non-medical basis. So we do not do anything medical. We strictly do non-medical things. We can help with anything from transportation to meal preparation, helping get folks up and out of bed, helping them get showered, anything like that that's considered an activity of daily living, we can certainly help with in the home.
Thank you, Ryan. Kim.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me
Yes.
okay? Okay. I'm Kim Spalding. I'm a senior home health specialist with CenterWell Home Health. I've been working in home health and hospice and acute and post-acute services for the last 19 years locally. CenterWell Home Health provides in-home rehabilitation and medical services to patients who are considered homebound or it's a difficult task to leave the home. So that's what we do best, is helping patients recover and do well at home.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Jeff.
And my name is Jeff Van Diepen. My son Logan and I own and operate Safety Squads, which is essentially a handyman service specifically designed to assist seniors to stay in their homes. So we're kind of the anti-assisted living option if you choose to stay in your home. We've been operating that business now for the last several years and are pleased to be able to assist you to stay in your homes with a number of different options that are safety related to make sure that your home is safe to do that.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. So maybe I can start with you, Ryan. So just in the community helping people, what is one of the most common reasons why people need some additional help in terms of being able to age in place?
Sure. So most of the time they're getting old and they need help at home. It can be anything from cognitive deficiencies. It can be a post-acute situation. Maybe they had a fall and a broken hip or something like that, and they need a little extra help for a month or two. There are many patients that we have that have been with us long term. So we can help with anything in the home, but most of the time it's folks getting older or their Alzheimer's or dementia is getting worse and their loved one can no longer care for them themselves. It's really beneficial to have a kind of a third party person that knows what they're doing and knows how to redirect and stuff like that for cognitive impairments. But most of the time it's folks that are in a post-acute situation that have a fall or something happen, a stroke or anything like that, and they need extra help at home for, a month or 10 years. It doesn't really matter. We've been with folks we've been in business almost 8 years now, and we've had folks that have been with us that whole time. So it can be any kind of range of time that we can help.
Thank you. Kim, so what are some of the common challenges that you encounter as far as people wanting to age in place at home that they encounter that?
Yeah. So generally for our services, what we encounter is similar to Ryan, someone who's had a change in condition. They've had a hospitalization, they're managing a chronic illness, they've had an orthopedic surgery as simple as, something as a shoulder or total hip or total knee, and they're needing more support at home. As far as challenges, some of what we see a lot is patients really haven't planned for the future, kind of hope for the best and expect the worst. I think a lot of us really hope that we're not going to have to change our whole lives because something changes in our health. And so what I see a lot of, and even just this week, several stories I could share with you of people not realizing, I can't stay in my home any longer, or, I had a huge change in my medical condition. I don't understand my insurance benefits. I don't really understand what my Medicare will pay for, my Medicare Advantage plan will pay for versus like a long-term care insurance policy. And now I need all of these things, and I have maybe a short period of time to make these decisions, and I just didn't plan for it. And we see that all the time.
And are those things we can plan for in some way? Are we
Absolutely.
So we'll talk more about that as we go along. Okay, great. So Jeff, what are some of the challenges that you see working with clients that, if you weren't there, would prevent them from being able to stay in their homes longer?
Well, one of the biggest things that we encounter is, as we all know, as we get older, it gets more difficult to do certain things. Certain tasks that we might have done when we were younger now are really challenging for us to do. So, that's one of the things that we see as a challenge. Also, anything that seniors need to do that requires getting on a ladder. Ladders are just not good for seniors to be on. And so we recommend that you not get on a ladder. Even a 1 or 2 step fall can be really a bad situation for seniors. And then also, as our eyesight declines, we also are more vulnerable to trip hazards. So trip hazards like loose rugs and even your dog's toys, a bone that you might have left out that your dog chewed on, those can be serious trip hazards for seniors, and particularly as our eyesight declines. So those are different things that we see that are common challenges that we try to remedy as part of our services.
So what are some of the precautions that we could all take in our home that maybe don't cost anything, maybe don't even need you, or maybe they do, to be safer in our home? What are some of the ones that come to mind? You mentioned about trip hazards. What can we do to eliminate trip hazards?
Lighting is an important piece, but again, like with your pets, make sure that you pick up after them, or identify where those trip hazards are going to be. If you've left a bone out, and I do this myself with my 2 dogs, if I give them a bone, I make sure I collect those bones after they're done chewing on them and put them away. But there's a number of things that can be done just automatically by yourself that are safety related. Making sure that your fire extinguishers are operational, for example. One of the things we also run into a lot is doors that aren't lubricated very well. So that can be challenging, opening them. Another thing that we see a lot of is door knobs that are hard to turn, as opposed to having a doorknob or a door that has a lever on it. So different things like that are things that you may be able to accomplish yourself and take care of yourself, that are easy fixes for safety's sake.
So I want to go back to 2 you mentioned. You mentioned lighting. So what about lighting is important?
Well, particularly, like night lighting, for example, there's some really good, interesting lights that are available that are motion detected. So if you're walking out into your living room, you're using the restroom at night, it's not on all the time, but as you approach it, the lights come on, which is really helpful. That's a good example of the lighting. And then even your exterior lighting is worth paying attention to. And that can either be motion detected or timers or whatever, and those are some of the common things that we're asked to accomplish with our customers.
And you mentioned fire extinguishers. What is the significance of that?
Well, we're always surprised when we visit folks' homes that they don't even have a fire extinguisher. And sometimes when we examine their fire extinguishers, they're either no pressure in them anymore, or they're expired, or and those are simple precautions that need to be paid attention to, because if you ever need to use a fire extinguisher, you want to make sure that it's available for you.
Thank you. I think Annette's laughing me back there because we had a function at our home a couple of months ago, and I was cooking on the barbecue outside, and suddenly it got out of control and there were flames everywhere. My son went running for the fire extinguisher, and thankfully someone said, "Take the meat off before you use the fire extinguisher." So we got the meat off, but I'm so glad we had a fire extinguisher. The first time I've had to use one. Well, my son had to use it. And so tripping hazards on that. Who has rugs at home? Show of hands. Rugs, floor coverings. Yeah, so just making sure they're secure. And I see Annette kind of grinning at me again because we had a client who had come to one of our seminars and we talked about tripping hazards. So we ended up selling his home a couple of years ago. But when we went there to meet with him and have a look, guess what we found he had done with all of his rugs? He had glued them all to the floor. Literally glued them so that you couldn't trip on them. So we don't have that happen in the future. We're not suggesting go home and glue them down necessarily, but that is one option. So yeah, we kind of smiled when we saw how he had taken care of the problem. No more tripping hazards. So to you, Kim, so what are some of the precautions that you could suggest to the audience that we could make in our home to be safer?
Yeah. So just as Jeff had said, we just want to make sure that our home is as physically safe for us as possible. Falls are the #1 cause of injuries, hospitalizations, and fatalities in seniors. So that is the biggest thing that you can do right now to protect yourself against any unnecessary health issues or injuries is safeguarding your home against falls. So I had also brought, just so I don't forget, over on the center well table, we have a home safety checklist. So a lot of what Jeff had spoken about is in here, and these are a super easy, cost-effective way to immediately safeguard your home against tripping hazards and other hazards. And as Brett had said, gluing down your rugs, actually our physical therapists, our rehab directors, actually, if you will not get rid of your throw rugs, they actually do recommend that you tape or adhere your rug to your floor if at all possible, because they are huge tripping hazards. The other thing that you can do to safeguard your physical health so that you can stay home as long as possible are making sure you're seeing your physician, your primary care physician, your other doctors on a regular basis. How many of you here have seen your doctor within the last year? Okay, you guys are doing good. Everyone's doing great. So making sure your doctor has made a plan for you. If he wants to see you yearly, that's great. Sometimes, depending on your health, they want to see you every 6 months. But the best prevention that you can give yourself is seeing your doctor, getting labs routinely done, so that if something has changed in your health, that you can nip that in the bud really quick and get on medication or whatever you have to do to make sure that it doesn't turn into a bigger issue. The other thing that you can do that's really beneficial for you is reconciling your medications as frequently as you can, writing down all of your medications and bringing those in, or bringing your medications into every single doctor's appointment that you go to, whether that be your primary care physician, your cardiologist, your nephrologist, whatever it is, so they can reconcile your medications, make sure that you're not taking anything that counteracts another medication that a different doctor gave to you. If you are taking more than 4 medications, you are at a much higher risk of falling. And if you are given a new medication within that first 2 weeks, you are at a much higher risk of falling. So just knowing those risks, knowing, oh, I just started a new medication, I want to make sure that I'm steady on my feet, I'm not dizzy when I stand up. You know, some medications can lower your blood pressure. So if you know that that can happen, that you're taking the necessary precautions. The other thing you want to do is, if you're a diabetic, you want to make sure to go get your feet checked and go to your podiatrist as often as possible. Your feet are the furthest away from your heart, so they do not heal as fast. So maybe you thought something was, you know, you had a little wound or scratch or cut, and you're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but you didn't get it taken care of. Well, now it's a much bigger issue, and that can cause a lot of problems as well. Going and seeing and getting eye exams frequently. As Jeff had mentioned, lighting is really important. If we're over the age of 65, we need 3 times the lighting to see than you were when you were 20. So lighting is really important. And it is, you know, and I know for me, nighttime driving is more difficult as I age. We can't judge depth and distance as well. So taking precautions, just knowing those things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to follow up on a couple that you mentioned. Firstly, you had mentioned about tripping and so forth. So most of us, I think, well, that happens to other people, not me. So how common is it that, you know, something happens to us in our home that we trip?
It's really common. So I just read a statistic the other day that said if you're over the age of 80, half of the people in this country over the age of 80 will have a fall this year.
Wow.
For sure.
That many.
And it happens, and if it's the #1 reason our, you know, older adults are injured in the hospital or dying, that is a huge risk, obviously, because it is the most common thing that's happening to us. And it can be avoidable. Not always accidents happen, but there's a lot of things we can do to avoid it.
Thank you. And then you also mentioned, or you asked, how many of the audience have seen, you know, their primary care physician within the last 12 months. And yes, people put their hands up. But I saw a few people that didn't. So what are some of the things that might be picked up if we didn't go and see our primary care that we're not thinking about? Like, I'm fit and healthy, I don't need to go, that's for other people. But what are some of the things that would be commonly missed or found if I did go that might help me?
You know, and a lot of people have, you know, may have never had an issue with blood pressure, and now they do. You know, if you know you're genetically predisposed to something, but you've kind of been avoiding it, it's going to creep its little head up there at some point. So, you know, you might go in and find out that you have a high cholesterol. So all of those things can be managed and stabilized if caught early. If not, you could end up, you know, having a stroke or a big health event that can change your entire future. So identifying something super early can be really beneficial. And usually it is those little things like blood pressure or cholesterol, or, you know, maybe you're a type 2 diabetic or your sugars are getting a little high, so they just need to kind of talk to you about some small changes that you can make to, you know, kind of get that under control.
Great, thank you, Kim. So Ryan, what are some precautions that you could suggest to us that we could make at home to stay safe for longer?
I think, you know, the biggest one is knowing your limitations. Like Jeff was saying, you know, don't go climbing on a ladder when you're over the age of 65. Just don't do it. Just have someone else help you if you can absolutely help it. And then the other thing I wanted to mention that wasn't mentioned, oxygen tubing is a really big cause of trip hazards too. I don't see anybody in the room on O2, and I don't want to single anybody out anyway, but that's a really good one. But knowing your limitations and making sure that, you know, if you're 75 years old and living in a 3-story home, you know, are the stairs a good idea anymore? Maybe we can get into a smaller house, a single-story house that's in a retirement community or something like that. So just knowing the limitations of what you can and can't do on a daily basis is really important. And if you need help with those things, then make sure that you're reaching out for help. I know senior citizens are inherently proud and they don't want to ask for help, but asking for help is really important. And if you're going to attempt to do something that you probably shouldn't be doing, you should probably ask your son or daughter, loved one, friend, neighbor, anybody that is more, you know, that is capable of doing it to help you out in those situations.
Great advice. So from your perspective or your client's perspective, what's the number one, if you had to pick one thing, what's the most common thing that they encounter that they need your services for?
Typically, it's physical limitations. So it's getting up and out of bed, getting dressed themselves. Bathing is a big one. That's another really big place for falls. Is number one, the toilet, getting on and off the toilet, and then in the shower. That's where slips and falls happen a lot. So, you know, we can come in and help that. And I'm not trying to sell my services at all, I promise. But anybody that can help you bathe. Maybe if you're unsteady on your feet. That's really common. So physical limitations, ambulating properly, and getting from, you know, the couch to your bedroom, getting from your couch to a walker, any of those are called transfers, getting from a seated to a standing position. If you need help with that stuff, ask for help and make sure that person is capable. But yeah, physical limitations are probably our biggest one.
Thank you. What would yours be, Kim?
You know, it's hard to pin down one thing that I would say.
You can sneak into like Ryan did if you wish.
Yeah. Thank you. You know, really, people utilize home health care the most for physical therapy services. So generally, it's after an orthopedic surgery. You know, if you just had a total hip or a knee, you're not going to be driving to outpatient therapy unless you're doing really well or you have friends and family that can help you. So I would say therapy services in the home can be really beneficial. And the unique thing about home health is because they're in your environment and they can look at, you know, what's going on in the home. You know, if you are having a lot of falls or, you know, you did just have a major surgery, they can assess the home for safety and making sure that we can make it as physically safe for you as possible while you're recovering and give you really good techniques to use so that you can recover while at home. So I would say if any of our services, therapy is probably used the most just because people need it off and on the most. The other service, because I am going to slip into, is nursing. We provide a lot of wound care services, you know, Foley care services for those patients who need a little bit a higher level of acuity care at home and they're managing chronic illnesses.
Thank you, Kim. Jeff?
One of the key words that I would use is the word anticipate. Anticipate that as these things happen as we age, that we need to be prepared to deal with them. And One of the things that we see a lot is the need for railings, ramps, and grab bars. Grab bars in showers and in tubs and next to the toilet are essential to avoid some of those falls that we're speaking about. So I definitely, would agree with the other panelists on those kinds of precautions that need to be anticipated, as we get older, and particularly if you're coming off of some type of a surgery, anticipate what you're going to need once you get back into your home. And make those modifications if necessary before, even before the surgery. Get those things taken care of and identify them early on, and we can certainly assist with that. Other thing I'll just chime in with is the Centers for Disease Control has got a great website, cdc.gov/falls, which really, kind of really brings to all of our attention how common falls are and some of the precautions we can take to avoid those falls. So worth taking a look at that site also.
Thank you, Jeff. So on the second page of your handout, there's a section there with resources that has some websites on it. The one Jeff mentioned is not on there. So once everyone gets to turn their page over, could you repeat that website one more time?
Yeah, it's cdc.gov/falls. That's the site.
Great, thank you. So if I can jump back to you, Kim, can we talk a little bit about in-home services, in your case medical? What does that mean? What does that encompass? So if I'm looking at bringing yours or a similar organisation in to help, you've touched on some of the things, but can you expand a little bit more about?
Yeah, in-home care, so we are the medical side of in-home care. One of the nice things is we are the most cost-effective rehabilitation care that you can get because we are providing those services to you in home. You're not going to a brick and mortar place to get those services. We are 100% covered by Medicare Advantage plans, but most insurances, if you have a commercial insurances, have a home health benefit, but generally for seniors, it's 100% free. I did touch on this. To utilize home care services, you do need to be considered homebound. Homebound is a very gray status or a gray regulation. So essentially what that would mean is it's a taxing effort for you to leave the home to get the same services that you would get with home health care. So generally it's those patients who they're not driving or it's really not safe for them to drive to go to outpatient therapies or wound care appointments. Maybe they just had a big hospitalization, and until they can get enough rehabilitation under their belt, they can't drive or go to outpatient services. But, they still, of course, can go to church and to the grocery store and see their doctors and those types of things. If you're going out to the casino and playing bingo all day, you're probably not homebound and you can go to outpatient therapy. But that's one of the... Oh, sorry, my watch wants to correct me. But home health, where we shine is education. The biggest thing that we want to come in and do is help patients who are managing a chronic illness, whether it's old or new, and learn about that illness and how they can best manage it at home so that they can be successful and live as well as they can as long as they can at home. That's what we want to do. So we provide nursing services, and like I said, we can do wound care, Foley management, any skilled service that a nurse would need to come in and do. Medication reconciliation is a big thing of what we do, and medication education. If you're a new diabetic and you were just given all of these new diabetic drugs and you're really not sure how to, what you're supposed to be taking or how you're supposed to take it, our nurses come in and help provide that education. We can help set up pill boxes so that you have some organization to it. Maybe you've been taking a medication for 2 years but didn't know that you were supposed to take it in the morning or you were supposed to take it at night. So those are some of the little things that our nurses can come in and identify to make sure that, again, you're taking things correctly and doing as well as you can. We have our physical therapists who come in, and they're there for after surgical care, or if you are having some falling or having some unsteadiness or gait issues. A lot of times we are brought in prior to surgery if patients having a lot of pain to see if we can rectify things so maybe that individual doesn't have to have surgery. So therapy is probably, like I said, the number one thing that we come in and provide in the home. Occupational therapists are available as well for more of those fine motor skill therapies that are needed. We have social workers on staff that can come in and help with community resources. So what if you can't stay at home? They can come in and make recommendations about community resources that are available to provide services to someone who is looking at making some changes or needing some resources, either maybe being placed or maybe resources to come into the home, like Amada or Jeff. We have speech therapists. So let's say you weren't seeing your doctor and you didn't realize you had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and you end up with a stroke. We have speech therapists to come in and help with, your swallowing and any issues or deficits that you might have related to that. Let me see. And then the other thing, just really want to touch on how unique home health is, because again, we're looking at your environment. We can identify, if you just had a heart attack and you're on a new cardiac medication, but we go and, with your permission, look in your fridge and we see all of these things that maybe you're eating that can cause, a setback for you, we're going to provide that education and help with that. So just eyes and ears in the home are really beneficial.
Thank you, Kim. So how do we get connected with you? Is it our primary care physician who's going to refer us to you? Is it the surgeon? Is it the nurse at the hospital? How do we get connected? How do we even know that we could use the services of in-home care versus having to go back to outpatient care or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, fortunately, home health is one of those services that most hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, doctors' offices utilize a lot of. I will say it is still underutilized, but it is a very common service. Anyone can call our office or any home health office in town and say, hey, I'm not doing really well, I'm falling, or I'm confused about my medications. I think I would benefit from your service, and that home health agency can call your primary care physician and work on a referral for you, so that you can always start there. Your next doctor's appointment, or you can call your doctor and say, hey, I'm not doing well, I think I would benefit from this service. All doctors love home health because we are their eyes and ears in the home. You can't have home health without having a primary care physician to follow you, because as nurses and therapists, we cannot work without a doctor following and establishing a plan of care for you. So that is another reason to make sure you're always connected with your doctor. But doctors love home health because we really help patients do better at home. And so they'll never argue if they feel like it's an appropriate service. And hospitals and skilled nursing facilities utilize home health a lot as well.
Great, thanks, Kim. So let's contrast that, Ryan, with your services, non-medical. What does that look like? Where are the boundaries between what Kim's organisation does versus yours in terms of helping at home?
We are completely non-medical, so we cannot prescribe PT, physical therapy, occupational therapy, but what we can do, so one thing I really wanted to touch on with Kim's services, or home health in general, they come and visit maybe an hour, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, kind of as needed, as prescribed. We can be there 24/7 if need be. So home health will come in and they'll assign physical therapy exercises, and then if you have us in there 8 hours a day or whatever the case may be, we can actually help get you up and doing those physical therapy exercises, because the number one thing that seniors decline from is not moving, and so that's really important that we're always up and moving. Or we can be there to take your dog for a walk if you can't physically do it. We can be there to do anything that you need. But we are completely non-medical. So we end up getting a lot of referrals from home health because the nurse or the social worker or whoever that goes in recognizes that, hey, we're not there, they're a fall risk, and we need to have someone there, maybe not around the clock, but maybe during the waking hours when they're not sleeping. And so we can provide that extended service. Unfortunately, we are not covered by Medicare. There's talk that might come down the road of Medicare Advantage plans paying for us, but at this point it is strictly private pay or long-term care insurance. There's some other avenues too. I don't want to get too far in the weeds there, but the biggest thing is we can be there when home health isn't there, and we can help with all those exercises and things, and then we can do so much additional. Transportation's a big one. taking folks to doctors' offices and doctors' visits. We can help scribe for them so that we can report back to the family what's going on with their mom and dad or their loved one or whatever. I think the biggest difference between us is medical versus non-medical, but we can be there an extended amount of time as much as is necessary.
And then when we were talking last week, Ryan, you were talking about long-term care insurance. We either have it or we don't. For those of us who don't, you were talking about another option potentially.
Yeah, there's a new I guess product that we have that was just introduced to us this year. It is basically, it's called home care income. So if you don't have long-term care insurance, you're in your 70s or 80s, it's basically going to be impossible to get long-term care insurance at that point, right? It's going to be super, super expensive, and it's probably going to price most people out of getting that. So we have a program that you can take your IRA or whatever kind of savings or anything you have, and you can actually parlay that and get an annuity where that annuity will pay for any type of service that you need, whether it's in-home care, assisted living, memory care, anything that it can get that you need. So you can take your savings and it actually multiplies quite a bit on what you can receive. So regular long-term care insurance, it would pay, let's say $1,000 a month or something like that for in-home care services. This pays up to 3 times that. So that would be, $3,000 a month that you could utilize for any type of services that you need. So it's a really cool program. We haven't actually done one yet, but we refer them over to the insurance company, and then the insurance company does all the underwriting. So if you'd like to see me afterwards, we can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So if we're looking for in-home care, whether it's medical or non-medical, is there some criteria we should be applying in terms of what organization we have come into our home? Do you have any tips for us? Are there good and bad organizations? How do we know that we have someone reputable? And just any advice as we look at options?
The biggest thing I always tell people is to check Google reviews. When you're looking at an agency, so we're, again, non-Medicare. So Medicare, Kim, you can speak on this if you want to jump in. Medicare, there's a place you can go to check their ratings, I think.
It's the star ratings. So
The
you can go to
star ratings,
medicare.gov and look at star ratings.
Yeah.
One more time, Kim, you can go to
Medicare.gov, and you can look up any acute or post-acute services and their star ratings. And it's 5 stars, right? Yeah, it's thanks, Lindsay. I'm like, it's 5 stars, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. For us, we don't have that. So you would need to go. The biggest thing I tell people is to go on Google reviews and check their Google reviews. Most companies only have 5 to 10 reviews. Like, I think we have 117 reviews, and they're all 5-star reviews. So we have a lot of people that have used us and like us and stuff like that. And I'm saying this for blanketing this across the board. You just want to look at that and then use your resources. Talk to your friends, talk to your family. We get so many referrals from family members that have used us, and their brother or sister is now needing help. Or their son and daughter used us for one person, and now their friends need us for something else. So use your resources, use your friends, but Google reviews are probably the best thing I can say for a non-medical agency like I operate. That is probably the best resource for you.
Thank you. Kim, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, so same with the medical side. You can also look at Google reviews. You can look at the Medicare.gov site and the star ratings. The only thing with star ratings is it can be a little bit gray because one agency may not take a high acuity patient, a patient that has a lot of health issues and needs. Those patients tend to go back to the hospital a lot. And so if you're kind of picking and choosing what patients you take, sometimes, that can affect your star rating, good or bad. So take that with a grain of salt. But as Ryan said, I would also ask, I'm sure there's individuals in this room who have utilized home health. I guarantee you have a neighbor or friend that has used home health, so definitely ask. If they've had someone in their home that they absolutely loved, those recommendations are solid gold. If you live in an assisted living facility, those facilities work with home health agencies all the time and generally can recommend who they really like because they work with them a lot. If you're going to do some shopping around and making phone calls, you can always make sure that service is certified by Medicare. That's going to make sure that they have the appropriate safety measures in place in order to take Medicare patients. So that's really important. The other thing is if you need occupational services or speech services or something like that, those therapists are kind of hard to find in this day and age. We are all short-staffed in the medical field, and so making sure if you call that agency, making sure they staff those services. They have therapists and physical therapists and occupational therapists, and there won't be any delays in care in receiving those services. That's really important. So, and again, in home health, the available services to you are nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and social work and home health aid. I didn't mention that before.
It's quite a list.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you. Jeff, so let's walk through the services that someone like Safety Squads or a similar organisation would provide in terms of the simplest things we should be doing at home, either ourselves or with the help of an organisation like yours, up to the more expensive things perhaps, or the more significant changes.
Well,
you already mentioned a couple.
Yeah, a couple of them, like the grab bars, for example, and the railings, identifying those kinds of things that would help to be able to facilitate your movement around your own home. But as I mentioned earlier, some of these chores that we've done for our entire life, they get riskier as we get older. And so taking some of those chores off of your plate by hiring a reputable company to be able to take care of those for you, I think is essential. The other thing that we've hit on is just making sure that that company, whoever you hire, is reputable. And that the 5-star reviews are great and should be looked at. Google the business. But in addition to that, just ask the provider, are your employees background checked? Are you a drug-free workplace? What are important criteria for you to have somebody that you don't know coming into your own home? So I think it's essential to really understand who it is that you're doing business with. We typically develop kind of a laundry list with our customers and our clients where it's not just a one-size-fits-all. We customize it based on your needs might be. And so on a quarterly basis, typically, those concerns are addressed. So if you're going to hire a company, and maybe that company is going to come by periodically, make sure that the things that you've identified in your own home are things that are being paid attention to by that service provider.
So how do we know what to pay attention to our home? We've lived in our home a long period of time. We're familiar with it. Everything seems fine, at least for the most part. How do we know about what we don't know? You mentioned we don't know at times.
Well, I had mentioned earlier, your doorknobs and your windows, or if you haven't used them very much and you need to use them, you might find that they haven't been lubricated in 10 years, and all of a sudden that becomes an issue if you ever needed to get out of your home. Another thing we do a lot of, we change out the HVAC filters in homes because, and that typically requires you to get on a ladder. And so we definitely don't want our clients to be on ladders. So that's one of the chores that we take away because we consider that to be risky, risky for people to be doing as they age.
So would smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors fit into that category as far as changing batteries annually? Or
absolutely,
whatever?
Light bulbs that are high reach. All those types of things. But yeah, if you have a chirping, going on, that'll drive you crazy in no time if you don't get that resolved quickly. And if you're a part of a service schedule, oftentimes those little peculiar things that pop up in between regular visits are taken care of for free. That's what we do in our company as Safety Squads. We just come by and take care of those little incidental things in between our regular visits.
So can you just explain that a little bit more? So it sounds a little bit different than me just getting a handyman to come out once and take care of some things. You're mentioning a schedule, a quarterly call. So what does that look like? How do you know what you're coming out for each time?
Again, it starts with a safety assessment similar to the one that Kim was speaking about earlier, where we assess your home and really take a look at the things that we consider to be things that need to be paid attention to on a regular basis. So we have a 100-point inspection, and we have an inspection for both the interior as well as the exterior of the home. And and then based on that inspection, that creates kind of our laundry list of things that we're going to do for your benefit as a client on a quarterly basis. So we come by and just routinely do those. A couple of examples that, that come to my mind, we clean your dryer vent on a regular basis. We change out those HVAC filters. We open and close your foundation air vents. We will clean the leaf debris out of your rain gutters. Or so many things that you may have done on your own for many years, but now those chores get to be a little more challenging and frankly more risky as we get older. So those are the things we want to take off of your plate and be able to handle for you.
Thank you. Annette's looking at me. I know what she's asking in her eyes. It's like, have we done that and that and that? So thanks, Jeff. I'm going to have more things on my to-do list when I get home.
I was thinking the same thing, like, ooh, those dryer vents.
The dryer vents, yeah. Who's had their dryer vents cleaned out in the last year, 2 years? Yeah, a few people, yeah. But it's those things you just kind of forget about, that, the dryer vents.
And not to bring it down, but there was a major house fire in South Reno, and that was the cause, was the dryer.
All that lint in there.
Yeah, it's interesting how we do that. We actually have a wind meter. So on the outside where it exits your home, the dryer exits your home, we actually put the wind meter up against it and see what it's doing at the beginning of our inspection. And then after we clean the vent, you can do the same thing, check the wind meter, and it's surprising. It'll go from like 3-mile-an-hour wind to 15-mile-an-hour wind. So it's moving that much better when your dryer vent's routinely cleaned. And again, it's also part of fire prevention.
Okay, great. So we could start with your list if we wanted to, Kim, the safety list, or we could have someone like safety squads come out who'll go through a list systematically.
Yeah, and our list is really going to be managing, your physical well-being. Jeff's is a little bit more broad, home repairs and things like that. We're really going to focus on, fall prevention, sleeping mechanics, all of those things to make sure our physical well-being is, protected.
Great, thank you. So let's just talk about other community resources that are available. If we're needing help, where else can we reach out to within the community? Who would like to take that?
Well, I think by far this is the best right here where you guys are. There are so many resources at your fingertips here, and I'm not giving Brett and Annette a plug, but I kind of am. There are so many community resources here at your fingertips. You have assisted livings, you have, I saw Medicare Advantage, there's so many new ones this year too. Just working here, and if we don't have that particular resource, chances are we know someone that does. And so, I'm always happy to refer out if I can't take a case for whatever reason, then I refer to another home care agency, one that I know is good and I've used before. But there's countless resources in this very room right here. So I think this is one of the best.
Thank you.
And just to piggyback on what Ryan said, it doesn't have to be related. If you walk up to me or Ryan or Jeff here, it doesn't have to be related to what we do. Any community resource, I've got 19 experience under my belt, but the amount, just looking in this room at our vendors and sponsors, years and years of experience and networking and knowing this community and our resources. So again, if I don't know the answer, I know someone who does or who can help. So it doesn't have to be related to my field. Any question, please reach out. I know Annette called me the other day. Someone needed, grievance services. They just had someone unexpectedly pass away in their family, and she knows who can help with that. So the other resources I would say is take to Google. You can put in the word fall prevention. You can go to Washoe County Senior Services has a ton on their website. The Division of Aging Services also does, and they have social workers that work for them that their whole job is knowing community resources. So, the internet's a great option as well.
And we have those links in the handout under resources, the ones that Kim just mentioned. And I'd just like to add just to what you both said. If anyone whether it's you or someone else, in need of something, by coming along to the seminars and visiting with our education partners, someone is going to have the answer in terms of either they can help you solve the problem or point you to who can. So like as Kim mentioned, Annette had reached out for help with someone with grievance and so forth. Maybe Annette has the answer or she doesn't, but she knows who to reach out to who might. And if Kim doesn't have the answer, Kim's going to know someone who's probably going to have the answer. So just really lean on the education partners that we have here. It's the whole reason we bring the education partners here every month, is to help solve whatever challenges we're all dealing with. We've reached out to multiple for a whole range of different reasons. I'm looking at Jason over there helping me out with some insurance questions that I had, and Lisa helping me with some information on hard money loans, and the second Lisa with a client needing to make a move. Tim, they're a Better Business Bureau as far as scams and what some people are dealing with. So on and on it goes. There's a wealth of knowledge. So definitely take advantage of our education partners. So let's talk about some success stories. So let's talk about how you've helped some clients. Maybe we can start with you, Ryan, because you're closest. What's a great success story for one of your clients?
We had a married couple that lived in an assisted living community. We started with her husband. At the time, he was 102 years old. Decorated Marine vet, all that good stuff. He wasn't even, he was so healthy that he was not on any services besides ours because he needed help getting up and moving and all that stuff. So at the time, his wife was 100 years old. He eventually passed. I think he was 103 when he passed. So right after he passed, his wife had a fall and broke her pelvis. And so we were with her around the clock for 3 years until she passed at 104. So that was the family, and I'm still really close with her daughter, their daughter, and her husband to this day. I see him at Hot House Nights every year, and we get together and have a couple laughs and stuff. But that was probably one of my favorite stories. Was the 100-plus-year-old husband and wife that we helped, prolong their life and live happily until the time of their passing.
And in their home.
And in their home.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Kim.
Yeah. So we had a patient, she had over 40 surgeries on her spine and her hip. And so she, rightly so, had a lot of, trauma from those surgeries. And she was having a ton of neck pain. And she was seeing pain specialists. She was seeing an orthopedic. And they recommended pre-surgery. Again, they weren't going to schedule a surgery. Their last-ditch effort was to bring in home health, have a PT come in and do an assessment to see if there was anything that we could do to help this lady. So our PT, Nikki, she went in, and as they do, they did a home safety assessment. Part of that is she wanted to look and see how this individual was sleeping and her body mechanics when she was sleeping, her bed arrangement. What she found is that she had like 5 pillows that she was sleeping on. And, she wasn't sleeping well. She was having a lot of pain. So Nikki developed a plan for her to eventually titrate the pillows down to 1 pillow, educated her on proper sleeping mechanics. Well, this individual never had to have surgery, and she was pain-free within a couple of weeks. So it's such a small change. But again, if you can have a professional come out at home and make, such a huge difference. And to this day, Nikki, we'll see her every once in a while for different things, and she's still doing really well. Yeah. So
that is awesome. Jeff, can you top that?
Maybe not.
sorry, yeah.
Well, we have a client still, and the husband had passed away, and the husband had always really assisted the wife who had some physical limitations, but now the husband was gone. So she still wanted to stay in her home. Both of them had made a goal that they wanted to stay in their home. And so all of a sudden she needed some modifications done to her home so she could still stay in her home. And so we built a ramp for her to get in and out of her kitchen from the garage. We also installed some railings so she could use her backyard. And then utilized the grab bars in the showers and also around the toilet. So, that turned out to be a great success. She's on a quarterly program where we come by on a regular basis and take care of her needs that previously her husband would have done. And we've been able to pick up and again allow her to be able to stay in her home successfully and also safely.
Thank you, and thank you for what you do. That's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. So before we go to questions and answers, unless you had anything you wanted to wrap up with, anything I failed to ask you?
The only thing I didn't mention as far as fall prevention was proper footwear. And I was kind of spying on everyone. I was looking at everyone's shoes. And of course, because of the snow, everyone's wearing awesome shoes. But, you know, if you're walking around your house with those house shoes or slippers and they're too big, or it's been a couple years since you replaced those, you know, you want to make sure you have a really nice sturdy shoe that's got a wide toe box that fits you appropriately. You know, those shoes can make a huge difference. That's the one thing I didn't mention.
No, thank you. It's definitely important. Thank you so much. So if you have a question of our panelists, what's that, Alex? Oh, you're pointing. Please raise your hand. And I just wanted to touch on something that
Debbie.
I think it was Lisa that mentioned, who just did the prize drawing. She mentioned Annette 9. That was very kind of you, Lisa, you know, because yes, we did create this, but it's become so much more than Annette and Brett. It's really about our education partners and you, the audience. So I don't want people thinking it's Annette and Brett's, you know, event. It's not. It's the event of all of our education partners, because that's where the wealth and the strength of this is the education partners are involved and the resources that they have access to for, you know, for all of us. So yeah, just like to say that. So yes, question down the back. Oh, Elvin, please.
Yes, this is mostly directed to Jeff. I was interested in knowing more about the squad. Is it a national thing, or is this just a local company? And it sounds like a person would need to subscribe to your services annually or whatever it is. And can we discuss cost? What does it cost to subscribe to your services?
Great question, Elvin. I should have thought to ask that question, so thank you. So Jeff.
We are not a national company. We are a local company, family-owned, right here in Reno. And we do have quarterly subscriptions or one-time services, so you know whatever you feel is necessary. And sometimes that's dictated by what we identify when we're doing those initial inspections and our checklist of over 100 things that we're looking at. Our typical home service is $249 per quarter. So less than $1,000 a year, and we are a resource for you for all those routine, risky chores, changing out HVAC filters, a number of different things like that we had already spoken about. So that answer your question?
Can we just get the mic back to Elvin? Elvin's getting 2 questions.
I was wondering if there's like a free initial. And then we have to pay after you did your inspection, but didn't tell us what needed to be done.
We do have an initial just inspection only of $89. So, and if you decide to do a program, we apply that $89 to the quarterly program.
So if I understand that correctly, if I may, so I could pay $89, have safety squads come out, run through the 100-point checklist and say, here's the 99 things, Brett, you really need. And then I can decide from then, yes, I definitely want to have you and I want to have you quarterly or whatever the arrangement is.
Yeah, even if it's a one-time service, whatever it is, we'll apply that $89 to whatever services you decide to have us do.
Fantastic. Thank you. And great question. Down the back.
The question is for Jeff. Who do you contact to get your fire extinguishers recharged?
There is several companies here in Reno that offer fire extinguisher services. I don't have the name of those companies, but we routinely get them. Commercial businesses are required to have their fire extinguishers maintained on a regular basis. You'll see those tags on them sometimes where they're actually checked off that they've been inspected and serviced. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of that, but I could certainly get it for you.
You think you could find out by next Thursday for the workshop?
I think I can.
Yeah, so if you come along to the workshop, Jeff will have an answer for that question. What I found, because I shared my little experience of having our barbecue go up in flames and obviously using the fire extinguisher and now needing to replace it, is I did call one place and it was way more expensive, and maybe I didn't call enough places, but it was way more expensive to have it recharged than just to go down to Costco or Walmart and buy a new one for what that was worth. I think a new one, for what we needed, normal regular household size, was like $15 or $20 or something. By the time I drove over to wherever it was in Sparks and had it recharged, I don't remember what they quoted, but it was like a lot more than that. But I guess that's the recycling. So how do I get rid of a fire extinguisher that's been used or hasn't been used, that's expired?
Probably and I don't know with certainty and conviction, but I believe it would be just in a recycle.
Actually, now that you say that's right, it said on it, make sure you fully discharge it and then you can put it in recycling.
That's right.
Yeah. So thank you. Next question, over here.
It's for Kim. For the home health care, how long does Medicare pay for that?
That's a really great question. So if you have traditional Medicare, not a Medicare Advantage, it really is, usually, even with a Medicare Advantage, I will say, it's based on our clinician's assessment. So generally, when each clinician comes in and does the admission, they're going to recommend frequencies per week. So for nursing, 1 to 3 times a week, depending on what's going on. For therapy, it's 2 to 3 times a week and so forth. And then usually they're going to set goals with you. So this is your, you were here before your hospitalization and we want you to be here. And so once you reach those goals, generally we'll discharge you, or maybe we'll discharge you to an outpatient program if you still need a little bit more. But generally, I would say, let's say, for example, someone's falling. We have a program called Safe Strides. It's our fall prevention, in-depth falling PT program. That can generally, with standard Medicare, go 3 months. With a Medicare Advantage, it's a little bit different. Those plans generally don't tend to give you as long, and it's generally the insurance company that's deciding when the patient, based on our clinician's assessment, they're deciding when the program needs to end. Did that answer your question? Okay.
That sounds like a good workshop, fall prevention. Didn't we do one a number of years ago?
We might
balance
have.
and-
Yeah. We can always do another one if with our rehab director, Jenny Luthi. She's incredible. If you guys feel like that would be beneficial.
Just to help me out, because we're this year doing workshops, typically the week after the seminar, at least one workshop, if not 2, depending on interest of everybody. But who would be interested if we did a workshop on fall prevention, balance, something along those lines? Yeah, a few of you? Okay, great. Thank you, that helps. Joe, question?
Yeah, right on that topic. Prevention doesn't always work. And AARP, a month or so ago in its newsletter, which I foolishly skipped, had a lesson on how to fall correctly. Most of us go rigid and go like that, and it's much better to bend the knees and roll. It's easier for me to say than to do.
Did you want to come up here and demonstrate, Joe?
Yeah, and I really appreciate you mentioning that, because I was going to discuss a little bit about what happens when you do fall, because yes, you can't always prevent it. You can, again, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Sometimes you're just going to fall, especially, if you have pets at home. You can't plan for them to, silently walk up right behind you when you're, cooking on the stove or whatever. So knowing what to do if you do fall is really important. Some of the websites that we provided can provide that information, but generally, who in here has an Apple Watch? Oh, not that many. Okay.
Handful.
Apple Watches, if you have a Fitbit that can make a phone call, a Lifeline, those are all really great. If you have a fall with injury, meaning you're really hurt and you cannot get up and you live alone, those are really beneficial services or devices that you can use to call 911. The biggest thing is to not panic, to kind of lay where you are, assess, where you think you are. If you think you can get up, find a very sturdy piece of furniture. Hopefully you fall near something that is sturdy that you can help get yourself up with. If you can crawl to something sturdy, using that. But the biggest thing is to not panic, take time, assess where you think you are, and very safely, if at all possible, try to get up, and then you can kind of assess from there.
Do you know how each of those devices work? For those of us who are going, what was that? Fitbit, Apple what?
Yeah, so if you have an iPhone, it's an Apple Watch that goes on your wrist. It can make texts. It can text people. It can call. It has emergency services. These things, I don't even know half the things that my Apple Watch can do. You can take your blood pressure on this, not your blood pressure, your pulse ox. It has cardiac readings. So if you're at all interested, Apple Watches are great. And if you do have a fall, you can immediately call 911 if you need to. And Fitbits, not all Fitbits have a calling device, though. I don't know Fitbits as well. But there's also the Lifeline. Who here has heard of Lifeline? Before the Apple Watches, that was kind of the it thing, was a Lifeline. It's a necklace or a watch or a device on you that can call an emergency service if you do fall and you live alone.
And am I correct now with the Apple Watch? It'll actually know that you are lying horizontally in the middle of the day, not sleeping, something has happened. It'll automatically
It'll
alert.
tell you to get up.
It'll tell you to get up, yeah. Brett,
Hey,
stop
you
being
haven't
lazy.
walked today. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if you're down for a certain amount of time, if it would automatically call an emergency service. But it does remind me to stand up often.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the
Does
way,
call?
you don't have to have an iPhone. I have a Samsung Android, and I have one of those. So,
So maybe we could cover that then at a workshop,
Yeah.
what devices and how and so forth, and how to fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about liability, it's all practicing rolling on the floor, but at least we can talk about how to do it. Because I'm sure it makes a difference if I've got a choice whether I go backwards or sideways or face first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you have
okay.
a choice, yeah.
Yeah, if you have a choice.
I realize that, Ryan, you're not covered by Medicare, but I wanted to find out, there's two questions. Who or what agencies of the federal government cover you, number one? And does the U.S. Veterans Administration cover your services?
So question number one is Medicaid would be the only government-operated service that would cover something like me. My agency does not take Medicaid. There's only, I think, maybe one agency in town that does non-medical that is covered by Medicaid. I just never chose to take it because, surprise, surprise, they don't pay anything. So number two, the VA does have some programs for non-medical and home care. And we are an actual provider, an approved provider for them. So you can certainly look into the VA. There's also a service called the Aid in Attendance that can cover up to between $1,300 and $2,800 a month in any sort of services. So it doesn't just have to be in-home care. It can be, assisted living, anything that requires 2 ADLs, 2 activities of daily living. And we can talk a little further on that. Rich and Melissa, who are our education partners here, they're really big into that, but I have helped several of my patients and clients receive aid and attendance in the past years. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so home health is a covered service under the VA benefit. A lot of veterans have VA and they also have Medicare. If they have Medicare, we'll use that for home health. But CenterWell is a national provider and contracted with the VA. Yeah. You're not covered by insurance? Yeah.
No, not at this time. But
For
we
private
are looking into that more and more. We certainly see that there's an advantage for insurance companies, for example, to avoid costs by having some preventative services being done at your home and making your home safer. So the same with the VA system. The VA incurs costs if there's a readmission. So if you got hurt, went home, your house wasn't safe, you injured yourself again, now the VA's got another cost if you're a veteran. If we could use the analogy of the proverbial ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, if we can use that ounce of prevention by making your home safer and avoid those falls or those things that could happen after you have a surgery or something like that, then that's certainly in the best interest of the VA to not have that happen. Plus certainly to your advantage not to have it happen too. Insurance companies, the same thing. We see there's some synergies that could happen if we can tap into those types of preventative services. And that's certainly one of the goals of safety squads, is to do that on a bigger context than just even the Reno market.
Thank you. Any other questions before we wrap up? We're a quiet group today. Could I just have my education partners who are in the room at the back just stand up for a moment, because we have a few minutes to kill. And actually, Debbie, could you take a microphone over to our education partners? Because we have a number of new people here. And maybe if we could just start with Logan down the end, So Logan, as Jeff had mentioned, is Jeff's son. So Logan's with Safety Squads. Say a quick hello, Logan.
Hello, my name is
Yeah.
Logan Van Diepen. I'm partner in Safety Squads. I see quite a few people that I've visited your homes here, but yeah, I like all the information that we gathered today. It's very beneficial and it's very needed. And again, as Jeff said, we like to have people anticipate things before they happen.
Great, thanks, Logan.
My name is Jason Candler. I am the owner of Jason Candler and Associates. It's American Family Insurance. It's home and auto and life insurance. So kudos to everyone here for making it here safely and not getting in a car accident on the way here. Hopefully you do the same thing on the way home as well. I'm proud to be an education partner and be part of this, and this is my first time here, and I would look forward to meeting all of you and seeing you throughout the year.
And just before we move on, so one of the things Annette and I really like to do as much as we possibly can is before we have an education partner join us, we like to use their services, or at least talk to people who have used their services, to make sure we feel comfortable having them in front of you. Because the last thing we want is someone shoddy coming in here that's disreputable or anything like that, which we would never allow to happen. But in the case of Jason, I met Jason last year actually through Alexa, our wonderful director of operations, not Alexa the box, but Alexa the real person, who was way better than any box could ever be. And Alexa introduced me to Jason, and I was so impressed with Jason and what he shared with me. We moved a heap of our insurance, some of our rentals and our home and vehicles over to Jason, and he's been fantastic to work with. So for anyone who might be looking to get another opinion on insurance, yes, I am plugging Jason. I think it's worth at least talking to him. He is super knowledgeable about areas where we were underinsured, others where we were overinsured, and at the end of the day, we have better insurance for less money. And yeah, thank you so much, Jason. Lisa.
Thank you.
Well, I can plug Jason too because I've worked with him professionally for a number of years, so it's great. My name is Lisa Fleck. I am the producing branch manager at Neo Home Loans, specializing in HECMs, home equity conversion mortgages, or more commonly known as reverse mortgages, and then also with banking assistance in regards to making sure that your money is not just sitting there, it's working for you. So we help with that too.
Thank you, Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. Tim Johnston. I'm the Vice President of Outreach with the Better Business Bureau serving Northern Nevada and Utah. My office is in Sparks. We also have an office in Salt Lake City, but we cover a very large area. My focus is really on business and consumer education, and so we're glad to participate this year as an education partner throughout the entire year. Next month, I'll be talking along with a couple other experts, and so bring your questions about scams and scam prevention. And I look forward to meeting you over the course of the year, providing information that we bring.
Thank you, Tim.
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Gay, and I'm with Gentiva Hospice. We have been partners here for quite a few years, and I'm actually the sister company for Kim. So we do end-of-life transitions, and we service all of Northern Nevada, Carson City, Minden, Reno Sparks, Gardnerville. So we're just kind of here when you guys need us, and we're a good resource for any questions navigating the healthcare system if you need anything at all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sal Gomez. I'm the Executive Director for Morningstar Senior Living out in Spanish Springs. So we're an independent living, assisted living, and memory care community. Been partnering with Janelle Group unofficially for a few years. First year actually being an official education partner. But glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you.
Alliance
Good
Trust.
morning, everyone. Will Kahumoku from Alliance Trust Company. I'm a trust officer over there, and we actually do quite a few services. Some of you or most of you in this room have trusts, and we help families get along as you exit, and so we try and keep peace amongst your heirs. And so that's what we do. We work with a bunch of attorneys. We also work with financial advisors. We work with a bunch of different people that you deal with in your life, and we try and make it simple for you. So that's what we do.
Thank you so much. Some of you may recall Lou, who was on our legal seminar along with Rich Schultz last year. Yeah, so Lou was from Alliance Trust, and they've joined us as a partner for this year.
Hi, I'm Yvonne, and Nevada Silver Life and Health. We're representing Prominence. This is Mary Lou, who is our expert.
An expert. Thank you, Yvonne.
Yeah, we're Prominence, which is an MAPD, as he talked about, depending if you have a medical supplement or an MAPD. So if you have questions on that, and then also being a broker, we represent both sides. And it's really what plan will best benefit you. It's not, I'm not going to chalk you into one plan or another of what you need. It's really what your needs are and get the best plan that'll help you.
Fantastic.
So as a broker, that's what I do.
And for ignorant me, MAPD, can you remind me what that stands for?
Medicare Advantage Prescription Drug Plan. That carries both of them. A
Thank you.
medical supplement just has A and B. You have your medical, you get a separate drug plan. Most MAPDs include a drug plan and the medical in one plan, so you don't have different plans.
Thank you for explaining that. All these acronyms.
Oh, there's more.
I'm sure. So I just want to thank you all for being here. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming out in the snow in these conditions. Everyone drives home safely, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you all next month on February the 15th. Thank you again for being here.